Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Tran, it's good to see your face, my brother. How you doing?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing well, man. So we got some news today, and we were planning on jumping on here and talking a little recruiting, but I think we're calling an audible. We're going to focus on the Jake Smith news. As we found out today, he has decided to enter the transfer portal, leaving the University of Texas. So Tran and I are going to react to that news and kind of do more of a short-term, long-term outlook. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe. We need like 200 people, only 200 people
200.
away from 10K. So biggest way to support the channel. We don't ask for much, and we understand that there's so much awesome content out there and so many people to check out on the online, on YouTube, on the podcast, on Facebook, all over the place. And as fans, we consume all of it ourselves. So those of you who are here watching Tran and I, we appreciate you. Thank you. Tran, when you heard the Jake Smith news today, just your immediate thoughts, and we can kind of jump into Outlook.
So my immediate thoughts went to thinking of our fans, and all of them were saying, "Oh, well, I know there's going to be some that are going to say, oh, he drops a lot of passes and things like that, and he didn't live up to the 5-star hype that he had coming out of high school, the Gatorade Player of the Year for Arizona." But deep down inside, I'm kind of bummed. You saw when he was actually on the field and actually could stay healthy, what he could do. He was actually our leading receiver coming back, career yardage wise. However, but if he was probably one of our best route runners, separation wise, he would catch balls over the middle. It was more so the tracking the ball. I think he had an issue tracking the ball, and I think with this coaching staff, they would have put him in proper positions to succeed. So losing him, I mean, it's not the biggest blow in the world, but it's a pretty big blow. We're just gonna have to see people step up. I know Jordan Whittington has been putting in work and doing, and his name has been called out multiple times in the spring in spring practice. So hopefully he can stay healthy, because we're lucky in that regard. But once again, he's an injury case as well.
I want to back up and hit on something you just mentioned. People cannot downplay the loss, and it's okay to say as a fan, and this goes for all fans. I know a lot of you who watch our channel are not just Texas fans, but you're Ohio State fans, Oklahoma fans, Big 12 fans, what have you. I feel like whenever somebody leaves, we always do the thing where it's like, hey, he wasn't that good anywhere. He wasn't going to start. Or he wasn't, I'm starting to hear a lot of people say he wasn't going to start or he wasn't going to play. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not the case here. Yeah, he was going to compete with Jordan Whittington. Jordan Whittington definitely had the leg up after the spring if you're talking about the slot position exclusively. However, there were question marks with the wide receiver position going into spring ball. And in my opinion, we left spring ball with those same questions, if not more. Now, getting Xavier Worthy helps. We'll get to him in a second. And, just getting overall health, people that we are really going to rely on, like a Troy O'Meara, like that will help things. Getting the quarterback situation established, that will help things. However, this is a question mark. So I think you're being very genuine by saying you're bummed that he's leaving. Like, it's a question mark.
Yeah.
You're educated enough to know that. And you're like, dude, like, this hurts the room, right? So Texas is going to have to recover from that. Steve Sarkisian is going to have to figure out, hey, this playmaker situation, these receivers, these guys I have to get the ball to. It's never a good thing when you lose somebody that's one of your faster players, that is good at getting separation when healthy. I do want to get to Jake Smith himself, though, because I feel like this was a frustrating experience for him at Texas. A lot of people were surprised to hear the news because there really hadn't been that much smoke out there publicly regarding Jake Smith. However, I'm not personally surprised. I know other people had tweeted today that they weren't surprised by the news. From what I've understood, he had tried to hit the transfer portal after his freshman year.
Mhm.
And you remember his freshman year, he had 6 touchdowns. And he was playing behind Devin Duvernay. And that was when we were force feeding the H position under Tom Herman, right? And so we came off that season where everyone knew, like, all right, plug in Jake Smith. He dealt with some injury issues, didn't even get, he played 6 or 7 games last year, dealing with, soft tissue issues, firing it up. And in conjunction with us trying to get Jordan Whittington healthy, it was very frustrating for him. And there was a whole bunch of things going on, more so personally, I feel like, off the field than what him being frustrated over playing time or him being frustrated over lack of opportunities. That was one thing you could say about Tom Herman and their staff, is they did have a plan to include him, sometimes to a fault, whether it was punt return, whether it was
Mhm.
direct snaps, like, there wasn't in my opinion, a failure of opportunity of Jake Smith's butthurt because he didn't play enough. I do not see that to be the case here. And please, please, please understand, when you guys see people hitting the transfer portal, you hear about transfers, there is more nuance to that than just somebody being upset about playing time. A lot of
Yep.
times that's the case for quarterbacks, 100%. But some of these other positions, especially when you're talking about a guy who's not from Texas, and there's other things at play here, please understand there is nuance to people's personal situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that deep down inside that it was always something in between his ears. It was all a head issue that he had with any of him being here at Texas. I don't think it had anything to do with actual playing time.
I don't, and you compound that with the injury problems, because we know, this better than I did. You play college football, Tran. One of the most frustrating things is when you're not available and you're dealing, like, instead of going to practice, you're going to rehab. Instead of practice, like, I'm on the bike, right? And it's frustrating, and you get in your head. We've seen football players as high as Andrew Luck say enough's enough and walk away from the game outright because they were just tired of stuff like that.
Mhm.
Again, I'm not saying that's exclusively the case with Jake Smith, but I do think all of those things are a contributing factor. If he's here at Texas for the last 2 years and he's totally healthy and playing all these games and productive and feels like he's a part of the team, I think that probably changes the outcome here. So
I think what describes it for you is that saying that Michael Jordan had, was my body could stand the crutches, but my mind couldn't stand the sideline. Seeing everyone else participate in games, it really is frustrating. Even if you're say you walk down the park and you see everyone playing and you want to play, but you probably shouldn't. It still wears on you. It wears on your mental about that you want to be out there playing. So he's
Absolutely.
a competitor. He was a 5-star coming out. Was he a 5-star or a 4-star?
He was a 4-star.
4-star,
I
but
think
he was
there was
still
maybe
the
one or
Gatorade
two sites
player,
there were
Yeah.
maybe 1 or 2 sites that had him as a 5-star, but I think consensus he was a 4-star. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like, I'm not trying to just make excuses for the injury stuff. I mean, but you're also looking at the fact that you have a new staff coming in, and the first thing that happens is he gets hurt and he's out for the spring. And now you're behind on a new offense in terms of getting those reps. Again, forming that relationship with the quarterbacks and being there. That's something that Jordan Whittington really, really, really got a leg up on, especially since Jordan Whittington was able to make it through the whole spring. Again, other factors in play. I'm not saying Jake Smith is leaving exclusively because of playing time. I'm not saying Jake Smith is leaving exclusively because of injuries. I'm not saying he's leaving because he's homesick or there was personal issues. I think everything factors in this particular case. Versus like a Kennedy Lewis, where it's just like obvious you're not going to play, right? Or a Malcolm Epps, where you're getting freshman tight ends who are already working ahead of you. Those are obvious situations. So let's just make sure we make that designation as fans in terms of the understanding. Now, moving on to the people that are going to be here, because we wish the best of luck to Jake Smith, but we also need to be excited and get versed with the guys who are here and want to be here at Texas. That is important. who do you, in your opinion, where does the pressure fall? Whether it's player, coach, what have you? Just your opinion in terms of, the short-term outlook from this.
Pressure falls on the coach, Andre Coleman. He has a lot to prove now. He was one of the very few that was left over from last staff, and now if you're losing big time names like that and you're still not producing, that's a huge red flag. And not only if that happens, but look at what we have lined up for the 2022 class too. We have what is it, one wide receiver committed?
Yeah, Armani Whitfield.
Yeah, so he's got to be working
committed right now.
Yes, yeah, committed right now. Of course, of course, they're working on other things, but if they don't produce, are we going to get those big names? That's
great
the question.
Great question. So let's start with that, right? Like, we're actually, so you just took me long term, damn it, Tran. But I want to address that because it's important. So if you're looking at long term outlook from this now becomes another negative recruiting chip until the season starts and people see the changes under Steve Sarkisian. People are going to recruit and say Texas more the same. You see, Jake Smith, that's another one, didn't develop, had all this hype coming to Texas, told you he wasn't going to do anything at receiver, told you this guy wasn't going to produce, and now he's gone, right? So that's a negative recruiting chip against Texas. And as these kids are taking their visits over the summertime, trust that somebody going to use that, right? So that is important to understand there. Now, in terms of the guys who are out there, right? Evan Stewart, 5-star, all-world Texas guy here who is going to be huge when it comes to name, image, likeness, has all the star qualities, has all those traits that we saw of the traditional Alabama wide receivers that have just been, killing it and getting drafted in the first round, right? He has all those physical traits.
First round factory.
Right. And he's probably, when the rankings change, he'll be even moving up right now. I think they got him at 35th overall player of the country on 247. He's probably going to make a bump into the top 20, top 15 type players. You have CJ Williams out of Mater Dei in California, whose roommate is Steve Sarkisian's son, and was here for a visit and hosted
2 weekends ago. Was it 2 weekends?
This past weekend.
Okay.
This past weekend, and was hosted by Bijan Robinson, and is a high priority recruit and somebody that you're going up against Notre Dame against and all these schools, right?
USC, you're going, all these schools, yeah.
So you have him there, right? So you're trying to come out 2022 with some heat, right? You're adding those guys to a stud in Armani Whitfield that you already got on board, and you want to also hold on to him too, right? Because he's probably gonna start taking start moving up the charts. So the reinforcements are coming from Steve Sarkisian, but if Andre Coleman wants to be here to benefit from that and keep putting that work in, good job by them for getting Worthy. Although that was again previous Alabama ties and what they were able to do there for 2021 and Worthy's here now in summer workouts. That's what's coming long term to fulfill that. But the short term has to work in order for the long term
to work. Yep.
Right. And what does that mean, Tran? What does that mean? That means Jordan Whittington has to be productive. That means. Oh, go ahead.
I think he will be productive because just his track record. I think he averages 9 to 10 yards of reception. He needs to stay healthy. So we need to put him in positions to where he can get his yardage, get his first downs. If he could break one, but take a little toll off of his body. Hopefully the new strength and conditioning coach is working on his body, because I think as a slot, he was too big. So I think him dropping a little bit of weight and, not necessarily being, hey, we're going to max squat in the middle of the season. Just let him do some body weight stuff. It's just functional training. But I think if he could stay healthy, I think he's going to be very productive, to attune to probably a 500 to 600 yard season.
He's gonna have to be more productive than that, in my opinion.
with Troy O'Mary and Joshua
Yes.
Moore.
Yeah,
You do?
because
You think so?
that position, even with
Mind
those
you,
guys, you like if the offense is gonna be like what they're saying, like you should have multiple
let,
people over
let,
700-800
let's
yards.
let's curb our enthusiasm on that. We are not going to be Alabama
I'm not saying okay.
of last year.
I agree.
We don't have those. We don't have that star power yet. I think a lot of it's going to be predicated off of play action from
you can't take 500 or 600 yards and sell that to Evan Stewart.
Yeah,
you
that's
can't.
True.
You can't take, especially let's say he's the second receiver on the team and he got 500 or 600 yards, and then O'Mary has 800 yards. That's not even all Big 12.
True.
Who are you recruiting? Like other schools are going to be like, bro, like North Carolina had 2 people over 1,100 yards a couple years ago, right? So and they had 2 running backs over 1,000 yards. Like you need to produce. Like enough's enough. Like Brennan Eagles had 500 yards last year or whatever it was. Like we've shown we can get people to those numbers, right? And I understand. I agree with your greater point in terms of he has to stay healthy, but I'm talking about in terms of the positions that these guys are playing now. In the Steve Sarkisian offense, guys are going to be more interchangeable, right? Like no one's just going to be pigeonholed to is a Z or X or H. Like there's going to be a lot more positional versatility and a lot more just easy touches, orbit motions, all sorts of stuff just to give people the ball in space. That alone should help with the uptick in catches, yards, hopefully touchdowns. You look at even, guys that aren't at that position, utilization of the tight ends, especially, their 12 personnel packages need to be on point. We saw them run a lot of 12 personnel in the spring game, although there's very little you should ever take away from the spring game. Keelan Robinson coming in, I think situationally, that's a guy you could just, throw in there. He is not a slot receiver by any means. He's a running back, but interchangeably, those
doesn't mean you can't flex them out.
Right. Doesn't mean you can't flex people like that out. But Joshua Moore is intriguing to me here because he had 9 touchdowns last year. And he had 9 touchdowns, and I didn't even think he had a particularly great season or play up to his ability. And here we are with yet another opportunity, A, for him to show he can stay healthy, and B, show that he can be that interchangeable piece that's playing opposite of O'Mary, whether he's outside or playing in the slot too, right? Like we need him to step up and develop that consistency there. I've always thought personally, and I'm probably in the minority on this, I've always thought he'd be, he should stick more inside in how he's used. I know that's where he started under Tom Herman, was in the slot. I actually agree with that for his skill set and what he's really, really good at. But whether he's, inside, outside, what have you, the people that I'm looking at are Joshua Moore, Jordan Whittington, Jaden Alexis, Xavier Worthy. Although I like what I'm hearing in terms of the summer workouts with Xavier Worthy. My only thing is cause for pause is he wasn't here in the spring. And so there is a ramp period for college football. And it's not like we're starting with like 2 FBS schools. We're starting off against some pretty good competition. So while I think Xavier Worthy could ramp into that, I personally would be surprised if we started the season and he's running out there. And the other person who I think is a similar version, but probably a little bit more ahead just because of time, is Kelvonte Dixon. I think that is somebody else who could stand to work in there and pick up the slack for Jake. And then you have other guys like Kai Money, Jaden Alexis, people that, that are out there. Jaden Alexis, who just recently was here in the spring and working at a similar position. So there's options for this staff, but Andre Coleman, I think you nailed it, Tram. Pressure's on him to find production, period, from that receiver room. So I did want to ask, in terms of Troy O'Mary, because there is pressure for him, and we tapped on him earlier. That outside position and the pressure that's going to be on him, do you have any concern because he hasn't played a single college football snap yet? Or are you just totally in that he's the number one, I don't care, he's going to be productive day one against Louisiana?
So ACL is a weird thing for a physical receiver. The only receiver that I've seen come back from an ACL injury so fast and produce the way he did was Tylan Wallace. So I hope he has the same doctor as Tylan Wallace. But we haven't really. I mean, we've seen clips of it. So I've been burnt so many times in the past 8 years for Texas that I'm gonna cause for pause. Have a little cause for pause. I want him to be I definitely. He has all the talent in the world. We've seen it in the clips. We've seen it in high school. College is a different game. I mean, having to do it over the course of a season. I mean, look at it. Joshua Moore started out last season like gangbusters and then tapered off. And he already had 3 years of college under his belt, if you count the one that he sat a year out on. So maturity is a weird thing. So that's the only thing that I think would be holding him back, is that he is young. So
there's going to be a lot on his plate. If he's wide receiver one, he's also going against, some of the better corners. The talent level, I do not question.
No.
And honestly, from what I hear and just how he carries himself as an alpha, I don't question that. But
you need that as a wide receiver.
You do.
Yeah.
But we also have to have patience with growing pains, that we're putting that much on a plate of somebody who hasn't played college football yet. That matters to me. Now, how you alleviate all this, especially breaking in a new quarterback in a new offense. You have Bijan Robinson, you have one of the best running back rooms in the country, and you have an offensive line that can run block their ass off. Lean on those dudes. Lean on your screen game. Tom Herman. I don't know why we didn't run screens to save our lives. And whenever we ran them, whether it was Roshan or Bijan or even Keontae Ingram, it was always money. But lean on your screen game, your backs in general, get creative, and then ease everybody else. Everybody else gets eased into where they're comfortable, their ramp. And I think you'll see the progression of Steve's offense just really blossom throughout the season as we get into Big 12 play. At least that's my hopeful expectation right now. I know some people are even higher than that and think that everything's just going to be humming day one, even with the setbacks that they're having. But I think some of this is just realistic growing pains. I still think that they'll be fine by the end of the season and know for sure where everything falls and whatnot. But there's also pressure here to win early and now. That's why they made the coaching change. Right?
Yeah,
there's pressure to win early and now. And there's talent on this roster, even with the lost production, even with Brennan Eagles not coming back and all these guys that are in and out. And the other guy we need to discuss on, and we can end here. Unfortunately, one of our young recruits, Keithon Lee, was arrested in Bryan, Texas, and has been suspended by the team. Seems like it was a family domestic situation. I'm not going to get into any of the details there, but best of the situation to that young man and to
his family
and his family and any victims. And when I say that, if he is at fault or if he is found guilty, convicted, what have you, hopefully he gets the rehab and the help that he needs.
Yeah.
These things are very serious, and but it's you can't give up on people either. Even with the mistakes that folks may make. Anything else you want to add, Tram? Before we
I agree with you. You definitely want and hope the best for him. You don't want to give up on people. Joshua Moore is a story of that.
Mm-hmm.
So and
good call.
I really don't know too much of the story, so I'm not going to be one to say, oh yeah, he deserved it or anything like that. I would never throw someone to the bus.
No, definitely not here to speculate on stuff like that. I think Joshua Moore is a good example. And even Reese Latow, who ended up,
who's now going to doctorate school. Is he going for his doctorate? Good for him.
He retired from football, but he is taken full advantage of the academic opportunities at Texas. So guys, hit us in the comments. Let us know how you feel about it. Short-term, long-term outlook. We hit on some of the recruits. We hit on kind of the roster as it stands right now and where we're looking to have some pickup there, replacing Jake Smith.
Like, comment, share, get us to 10K.
Get us a 10K, damn it.
200. 200.
We appreciate y'all. And remember, horns always up.